We started an organization about 6 to 12 months ago, had our first program in February, with plans of trying to do things every 2 to 3 months. The concept being that dissemination of basic information is lacking and helpful and needed, and that a lot of just bringing to the forefront of people's minds these issues really gives a good chance for a dialogue. Like most things in life, we expect that the people mostly in need and mostly could benefit are not necessarily those who are getting the most eager, but eager beavers tend to be those folks who are already in good shape. But nonetheless, there's no one out there who probably can't use improvement in general in some area of life, and within marriage, whoever thinks they've got it good, I'm sure it could always be better. And whoever doesn't have it good, well, there's always hope. So, as I always told everyone who says, why are you doing this? Or I've been called, my wife loves to call me now the marriage maven. The answer is that, the old saying that if you reach for the stars, at least you won't get stuck in the mud. Well, maybe I'm doing this just to, hopefully save my own marriage along the way. So, but in the interim, part of the ideas we're trying to promulgate is the basic dissemination of information, in addition to trying for right now to make access to counseling easier for a lot of couples who may be in need. We're working to raise funds and provide information for those who are in need of even very basic counseling services, who maybe otherwise can't afford or don't have good ideas or direction for those who may need. We are also working to put together essentially a hotline that would be anonymous and available to the community for those who have issues, who just want to call up and talk and speak with counselors and those in the know who could help direct them. Part of our idea also is to remind those out there of the good old concept of the Selach Harav, that it's very, very important that one reach out to their mentor, have a mentor, and feel comfortable and free to speak to many of the tremendous Rabbanim within this community. And if nothing else, we hope that we can impart those ideas as we try to share the concepts along with everyone else. In the past, we had a program at Shari not very long ago that involved not only Rav Goldwasser, who spoke as a keynote, but also had a question and answer forum. It was discussed from very early on that we wanted to work into this idea, workshops that would be definitely a little bit more focused and tailored. And we try to do that today. We'll hopefully see how this plays out, but the idea would be is that as much as a lecture can be very informative and informational, we want to try engaging people as we can. Our format for today is going to be this. Afterwards, followed around 45 minutes later, separate workshops, 2 different workshops for men and women, separate, but one initially, Rav Richmond and Mrs. Yafi Youngrice are going to be hosting individual separate lectures, and then after that, the Reisels, Aviva and Mayor Reisel, who are Mayor actually working with Shalom Workshop as their Director of Men's Education, and Aviva Reisel is a licensed marriage family therapist, are going to host our second set of workshops as well. I need to mention a few thank yous and a few just points. Shalom Workshop, for those of you who don't know yet, is a resource within the community. They have actually been doing something very similar to what we are doing here, but on a more one-to-one basis. They are gathering and hosting workshops, both for those who are about to get married and also for those who are newly married, and they're expanding their role. We are trying to work together with them in ways that enable our programs to go forth and spread the message. But in addition, I would highly encourage, for those of you who are motivated and willing enough, they are offering more one-on-one workshops. As time goes on, you could approach Mayor Reisel, who is here today. There's information outside to find out about that. Shalom Workshop also is affiliated with Shalom Task Force. If, God forbid, anyone is aware of problems that have become very critical or very difficult, the Shalom Task Force has been around for some time now and deals exactly with those issues. Very problematic scenarios, whether it's emotional or physical abuse or tension or pressure. There are resources, and we want to put people in touch with those resources to help us. For today's event, I want to give thanks also. The Reisels have been very, very helpful in putting together these programs. Danny Kay for his help with a lot of the audio-visual and other background effort. Also, I must give a very large thanks to both Ricky Kramer, who's been a very big source of inspiration for many of these ideas, and Dr. Eliezer Greenberg, who's been very selfless and helped us arrange this. Rabbi Richmond for allowing us to host as well. I also want to now introduce and thank Rabbi Yehoshua Kurland, who's been gracious enough to join us today as a keynote speaker. As they say, he needs no introduction, so I'm not going to quite leave you off that easily. But noted Maggid Shirwith and Shar Yashiv, author, lecturer, who I would say, as I was going down this path here, there have been a variety of people who have been surprisingly enough remiss to even want to address topics, talk on things, be part of this. I can say that aside from knowing Rabbi Kurland for, 30 years maybe, 25 years, before I was married, Rabbi Kurland, with his unnatural aplomb, immediately jumped to the opportunity to speak and talk, whatever he could do to help and be to address people at any level that needs help. He actually has a lot of experience with a lot of Yinger Light and Bachram who have gone through his shirim and has the necessary experience to really bring things to the table, in addition to being an esteemed role in the Talmud Chacham. We now would like to introduce Rabbi Kurland to address us with some words of wisdom regarding Shalom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steiner, whom I am honored to say I once had the privilege to have in my share. I never say who the Rabbi was, but he's someone that we can all learn from. I know, David, that my wife put you up to this, and therefore you called me, and I'm the Kabul, and I will try to address my words to myself. If anyone else is listening, that's fine. Otherwise, sit back, relax, have a good time. It's a Sunday morning. I don't mind if you catch up on your rest, whatever's good for you. Now, when you bring a notebook to speak, and Rabbi Richmond will be the first to say that the audience gets very nervous. Like, what is this guy doing here? I want you to know I left 2 of the notebooks in the car, and I just brought 1 in. I just want to give the impression that I prepared something for today. In going to a shir and workshop on Shalom Bayis is kind of like marriage itself. You are locked in and they kind of last forever, we hope. And we'll try to make this pleasant, enjoyable, and hopefully we'll take something home. The topic today, balancing priorities when the stakes are high. I'd like to modify that a little bit if possible, according to the dictates of this story, a sweet story about a husband and wife, and the wife was a very frum woman. She didn't care much for cooking. She liked to do it very quickly. She knew her husband liked his steaks well done, but she didn't have time for that, so they were always rare, and she wanted to get back to her Tehillim and her Tchinas and her Tzena Rena. And the husband didn't let it bother him. And very quietly, he would put in some salt and pepper and monosodium glutamate, whatever does the trick. And they lived very happily. One Shabbos, they had company, and the guest says to the wife, the Rebbitzin, I want to tell you that this is the most delicious chon that I've ever tasted. And very humbly she says, thank you. Es kommt von meine Tehillim. It comes from my Tehillim. And he quickly added, and meine Meisim Teuvin, and my good deeds. I think we could say that the topic should be balancing priorities when the stakes are rare. Although we can't touch up a story is a story. Ma'aseh shoya kach hoya. But in this husband, you see something very interesting. He had some type of keen understanding of priorities in life. And he turned a difficult situation into one he could live with, and with humor at that. And he accepted, and he understood, and he went further. And I'm not saying this is the route to go, and I'm not chas v'sholom suggesting that anyone should subject himself to food that is not tasty. But to evaluate the entire situation, that's something. But more importantly, you see something that's unequivocal. That a successful relationship is built upon Tehillim and Meisim Toivim and much more. Much time and much effort. Much discussion. Much communication. It's hard work, and every ounce of energy expended for its sake is well worth it. It certainly demands a keen understanding, a keen appreciation for what one has, and establishing his priorities thereof. So let's talk about priorities. Whenever discussing priorities, I think of 2 stories. There was the empty seat at the Super Bowl.